Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And welcome to the Drift Radio Show. Joining me in studio, it's the Ed Bonderenka.
Just in the nick of time, too.
Just in the nick of
I want
time.
to say thank you to all those motorists who got out of my way. I appreciate it. Any officers who looked the other way, God bless you, sirs.
Yeah, I saw a couple of police on the road today, too. So.
Oh, and honey, I wasn't speeding.
Yeah, I changed the wheel size on my Jeep and have not fixed it. I think I'm running 3 miles over what my Speedo says.
What you do is you do 120 down to 1 mile, and you should get there in 30 seconds. So you go down the expressway, mile markers, do 120 miles an hour. If it's 30 seconds, you're right on.
You're encouraging me to break the law.
You could do 60 miles an hour, but then everybody would be honking at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, what we do on The Drift every Saturday is go over the news that we put on thedailydrift.com, www.thedailydrift.com. It's
the news you need to know.
Well done. Thank you. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to take care of Littles, but I also want to say happy birthday to my sister Donna. I'm not saying her age. I could tell. I actually know it, but I'm not going to.
Your younger
say
sister?
it. She's my older sister.
Yeah.
She's still
your young
she's
sister.
the baby sister, but she's older than me, right? So happy birthday to you, Donna, August 3rd. And
shall I sing? No.
Now. And then let's take care of a little business, shall we? If you're tired of public schools, if you don't want your children brainwashed, I'm not saying all public schools are bad. I'm just saying some school districts are kind of propagandizing your kids to a liberal attitude in education. If you don't want that, go to Cheryl Stockwell Academy in Brighton, Michigan. From preschool through high school, the CSA way integrates innovation, choice, and character at all levels. And it's nice. It's kind of nice when a school does the uniform thing.
Mm-hmm. Right? It certainly is.
I think
there's no competition on, who's wearing what tennis shoes and what jeans.
And I think it installs a bit of not only discipline, but a little cohesive. We're all on a team, right? Which is kind of nice. So you can reach them at 810-225-9940. That's 810-225-9940. Or you can go to csadistrict.org, csadistrict.org. Get your kids into a private school. It's paid for. You don't have to pay cash for it.
It's a charter school.
It's a charter school. So.
Speaking of which, you gave me a letter that somebody wrote in last week. I started to read some of it on Rick's show, and we're printing it in the Current this month. And it's along the lines of what Donna X had to say. It's in reply to Donna X's letter, her letter to the editor in the Current, in fact. And so I may read that next week.
Okay, I don't. You know what? Used to be liberals would say, we're going to question authority. Then the liberals took over and became the authority, and now they don't want you to question anything, right?
Just give us money.
It's a strange world we live in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we got tons of things to talk about. The Democratic debates were here this week. But I want to start with the Baltimore brouhaha over Trump's comments. And let's face it, Trump made the comments about Baltimore because he's hitting back at Elijah Cummings, Democrat representative in the House who leads one committee, I think. And he's always bashing Trump.
I think it's the Judiciary Committee or the Oversight Committee, yes.
Oversight, yeah. And so Trump hits back.
And somehow they think it's oversight of the White House, What?
Exactly. So, here's my deal. You have a job to do, Mr. Cummings, and it's the same with Rashida Tlaib here in Michigan or AOC in Detroit. Your job is to represent
you're picking on women of color.
What I'm a racist, all right?
Jeez.
That's what they're going to say. I'm a racist, right? Because I'm picking on someone for not doing their job. It's these representatives' job to try and do something for the constituents that elect them. That's their job. Look out for their best interests, not worry about Donald Trump and all these other things that are not of importance to the people of Detroit or Baltimore or wherever.
That's
right?
such a quaint notion. It's so old, man.
In what strange new world are we in that it's no longer their jobs that we elect them to do? They do whatever they feel like instead of doing what we're asking them to do. I mean, Tim Walberg is doing what you elected him to do. He's looking after your best interests. I think Alyssa Slotkin is she's my new congresswoman. Not super happy.
Well,
but
I actually have Dingle. I don't have.
Oh, you have Dingle. Oh,
Yes,
well, then you're in that same boat.
I have Dingle the third.
Dingle is not bringing any money and stuff. No. She's not looking out for the best interests of the people of Downriver and Ypsilanti and whatever else.
You know how you mention a congressperson and their party and their districts. You got AOC, D, socialism, and then you got Tlaib, D, Palestine. Yeah,
and
then you've got what's her face, Oman, D, Somalia. I mean, it's like or grievance state, the grievance state.
It's the grievance crew.
Yeah.
It goes back to that unhappiness that we talked about last week with Keith
They don't
Felton.
represent their districts. They're just out for a larger socialist agenda, destroying America.
Yep. So, anyways, Cummings went after him, and so did the mainstream media and every other liberal Democrat, and some never-Trumpers, too, rhinos, who said, oh, Trump's a racist because he said it's a drug-infested, rat-infested area. What? Since when is drug-infested and rat-infested a racist comment?
Did you hear the story of where the rats had tunneled under the street and the garbage truck caved it in? It was like a sinkhole. And then, these rats are smart.
That's like a Stephen King novel.
I
Remember
know.
that one? Cemetery, whatever it was? Not Pet Cemetery, but it was a short story in one of his Skeleton Crew books or something, I think.
Regardless, so then the rats feasted on the garbage when it spilled out of the truck. And it's just like, wow.
And the garbage guys had to run away?
Yeah.
Before they got eaten, too?
Well, they weren't allowed to carry guns, so.
Yeah. So criticizing Baltimore is now a racist thing. I guess you can't criticize inner cities or cities that are
Do you remember when there was a bounty on rats? Back
in Michigan?
Yeah, there was a bounty on rats. They could actually shoot them with 22s downtown.
I'm going to tell you a funny
Oh, those were the days.
I'll tell you a funny story. There was a guy that I worked with way back when I was like high school and right out of high school. He moved into Detroit, and we thought, why are you moving there? Well, he had an alley off the back with a garage that went into the alley. And for fun, he had these BB guns, but they were powered by a Freon canister. Ooh. And they were fully automatic. Ooh. And they shot like hundreds of BBs at a time out, and that's what
like
he
the
did.
arcade, like the arcade.
I don't know if you could find those things anymore. I always wanted to get one, but that's
they used to have them at the arcades.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
They just put in it was a Freon canister is what I think he screwed in underneath. I don't know. I'm assuming it was bought, but maybe he made it. I don't know. Anyway, so it used to be the dollar bounty here. I don't know if that's still the case.
I don't either, because you're not allowed to discharge a firearm in the city limits anymore.
Right.
And any vermin, no kind of vermin.
Right. So anyways, I want to start with this first track because if Trump says it, it's bad, but everyone else can say it, right? So, Derek, you got track one ready. And this is Bernie in 2016. Go ahead.
Vice President Biden says that your current position on busing, you're opposed to federally mandated busing.
No, that's not the right one, Derek. That's not the right one. We got it mixed up. Maybe I gave you the wrong link. I don't know.
It wasn't a bad one, but it just wasn't the
one. It was one we'll get to eventually. In the meantime, let's take a call from Ken, who wants to talk about how racism is part of telling the truth now. You're a racist. Go ahead, Ken. How are you?
Well, I just wanted to comment that the thing I'm running into a lot is Democrats unwilling to accept the facts of reality. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Example, a few days ago, there was a lot of criticism by the left about comments that Donald Trump had made about San Francisco, California, and the conditions it's in. And local radio station was slamming Trump. And so I called up, and I got the program director who also does the call screening. And I told her, I says, look, I have a good friend of mine who was born and raised right here in metropolitan Detroit, Livonia to be exact, who's now living out in California. And because of his job, he has to travel all over the place and go to the cities. And he'll be the first to tell you what a dump heap it is. I mean, everywhere. I mean, it's just a horrible
catch that one.
living condition.
Yeah,
What?
You can't use
You
the
can't
S
use that word, or we can't let you back on the air again. It depends on whether Derek got it or not.
I think Derek caught that. He did.
I apologize. I didn't know that word was in the list.
You must use dung or crap.
Anyways, you're good. Go ahead.
So anyway, so my point is, I'm telling this program director on this other station the truth about, hey, this is what's going on in California. I got firsthand information on it. They wouldn't believe a word I said. Not a word.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those Trump supporters. You don't speak the truth. California is such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I've lived in California, and that was back in 1990-ish. And yes, California is a beautiful place. But even back then, there were areas that were sketchy, right?
Baltimore has beautiful places.
But I don't remember back then. I mean, we had a couple of homeless people, even in a good neighborhood where I lived. But there was not needles on the streets. There was not feces maps and that sort of thing going on, right? All that is relatively new in the last 10 years, maybe?
But that only occurs in urban strongholds of democratic resistance,
Right. Yeah.
And
there again, the only good part of California, from what I hear, is the wine growing region.
I was going to say Napa.
Napa, but you get into the cities, you might as well forget it.
Yeah. Well, great point, Ken.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Have a great one. Bye.
Yeah, Baltimore has some beautiful urban areas, and then it has, the rat-infested city. It just depends where you go. But, where'd all the money go? Where'd all the money that HUD gave them? Where did all the money that the federal government's given them?
Yeah, depending on whose
pockets
article you looked at, was 18... Was it?
I heard
billion?
16 billion.
16 billion last year.
Only money,
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting that kind of money for a small urban, the downtown area or those neighborhoods that are bad, something should be improving.
Mm-hmm.
Something should really be improving, and obviously it's not because. Derek, did you ever find the track 1, or did I just give you a bad night? Let's go. How about track 2? This is the one with Cummings. Okay, we've got this one. And this is, I think, from 1999. So it's 10 years ago. Go ahead and play that.
I left my community of Baltimore, a drug-infested area, where a lot of the drugs that we're talking about today have already taken the lives of so many children. The same children that I watched 14 or 15 years ago as they grew up, now walking around like zombies. This is only 40 miles away from here.
Okay, I don't know why we have music in that thing. They always spoil those things with good music. That was 1999, so we're looking at, is that 20 years ago? Yeah, 20 years ago. Well, Mr. Cummings, you've had 20 years to make a difference. 20 years to get in there, figure out how to spend that $16 billion to end opioid or drugs or rats or cleaning up. It's literally insane that we've allowed that to go on for 20 years. You knew it back then, Mr. Cummings, and then when Trump points it out 20 years later, you want to have a hissy fit that he's using the word rat-infested and drug-infested for your home district.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, you can probably find that video.
I'm sending it to him right now.
I want the people to hear that one as well.
I just emailed it to him.
Okay, my apologies for not having the.
Derek, it's in either of your email accounts.
I obviously I was a little stressed out this morning trying to get ready. I sold my dad's sailboat, little Hobie Cat 12 monocat.
You didn't offer it to me.
I didn't know you were a sailor.
I used to be, but I don't have enough time for that. Yeah.
You got to live on the lake.
Yeah,
right?
You're
so
right.
I found this guy, Mike and Denise, and God bless them both. Nice couple. They came out, and this dude is a real sailor. I mean, he was the terminology, everything, blah, blah, blah. I gave him the boat and some of the things my dad had accrued with it over the years, and he was happy. And I felt good because the boat's going to get a second shot at a good life on the water, being used instead of leaning up against the side of my house for all these years,
Boy, I've seen, I belong to this group on Facebook, Lone Star Boats. And so they're boats like mine, which are older boats. And you see these pictures of these boats. I found this out in the woods. I found this in the barn. Some are really like pristine and some are like, oh, or this was my dad's. And it's just been sitting there since he died 40 years ago. You know, as some of those are, but some are like absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
If you got something
Let's think about aluminum boat. They don't rot the way fiberglass and wood do, you know?
Right, that's exactly. Well, let's take a call from Joe in Wyandotte who wants to talk about the racial issue. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, we need to look at this as an opportunity.